Okay, so with this size drum set, the slightly larger one, with the 10, 12, 16 inch toms and 22-inch bass drum, we had to assemble all 4 of those drums, and the snare was the only one that came out of the box pre-assembled. With the slightly smaller drums, I believe the 2 toms already came assembled as well. But with the snare drum, it comes assembled, but it doesn't sound, it's not tuned up quite right. Typically a snare drum is going to be tightened down quite a bit more than your toms. In fact, if you turn the snares off, the snare wires are on the bottom, and there's a lever here to turn them off. That's on, that's off. Okay? There's a adjustment here too. We want to loosen up. That adjusts how tight the snares are when you turn them on. But we want the tom to sound higher than, sorry, we want the snare to sound higher than the toms. And it's not that way right now. Typically the case. Some people really like them low, but most people complain about their snare drums not sounding the way they like them, and that's typically what I find is they're just not tuned high enough or tight enough. So we're going to really crank this one down on both sides, the batter head and the resonant head. Again, a nice upgrade that you can do for these drum sets is put better heads on them. It makes a really big difference on the sound quality and the durability of these heads too. They're not the best. Especially, well, they're good for beginners because you're going to probably end up putting a few dents in them anyways until you learn better technique. But they're not bad to get started with. But like I said, it's a nice, easy upgrade down the road. Add some better heads. We add some better cymbals. Add some more cymbals. But you're going to hear a big difference just in this. And again, I'm going mostly by feel because I've been doing this for a long time. So I'm hearing these 2 as lower. Crank those 2 down just a little bit more. Still a little lower, and this one too. It's closer. Nice feature with these kits is that you get a wood snare drum, and that's not always the case with the beginner sets. You a lot of times get a steel snare drum, and there's nothing wrong with a steel snare drum, but usually a wood snare drum is kind of an extra perk to get with your beginner set. You get a little bit more sensitivity and warmth out of a wood snare drum than you would out of a steel snare drum, but it's all personal preference. Alright, I think we're getting close here. Higher. We can turn our snares on now. That's not bad. It's a little rattly, so I'm gonna loop or tighten the snares just a little bit. It's sounding pretty good. Okay. So now we can get our snare stand, which comes fully assembled. All we have to do is loosen this wing nut and swing this up. Snug that back down. Now all the drum hardware, the other cymbal stands and the hi-hat stand all have a tripod on the bottom. So with a tripod, we're going to make sure that's loose. We're going to grab a couple of the legs and pull them out. And you can push that center down. So these are close. They don't have to be touching all the way, although they can. You can make it for a smaller footprint if you bring it up. Of course, it's going to be a little less stable, but somewhere in between is good. Snug that down. Open your snare basket just by pushing out on that. Snare stands like this are designed to accommodate different size snare drums. This is a standard sized 14-inch snare drum by 4-inch. So you're just going to set it right on there. And it's a little loose the way it sits right now. It's got some play in there. So all you do is turn this big wing nut right there and it'll clamp up. And you can tighten it all the way to where you can pick the whole thing up. Some people say that it chokes the drum out and it doesn't resonate as much, so if you want to loosen it back a little bit, so it just has a little bit of play in there, that's probably a good idea. I'm going to set that right in place. Now it looks like it's a little bit higher than our floor tom, but that's about as low as we're going to get it. So we're going to loosen that, or tighten that wing nut up. That adjusts our height of our snare. Of course, we wouldn't really have to go much higher than this, but you can adjust the angle of where the snare's at too, and then try and get your floor tom to match. So the next piece in the puzzle here is the hi-hat stand, and it's got a few different pieces to it. We're going to bring down the foot plate and open the tripod to get started. And you want to make sure it's good and stable. You don't want the centerpiece to be higher to where it's high centered like that, or vice versa. You don't want a bunch of play or space under here. You're going to be pushing down on with your foot, so you want the center and the three legs to be all evenly placed on the floor. You can tighten your wing nut. Now with this, we're going to take these two metal pieces and squeeze them together, and they're going to fit inside these two holes right here. And that keeps that in place. Okay. Now we're going to pull this from inside there. This is the hi-hat rod. And we're going to screw it right inside this little brass piece. It's threaded. Just like so, until it stops. Nice and tight. And then this goes down over the top of it. I'm going to bring that right through the hole there. And then this adjusts how high your hi-hat cymbals are. So we'll go about right there. Snug down your wing nut. Now you want to set it to where when you're sitting at your drums, you want your feet about shoulder width apart, so that it's comfortable, kind of like you're just sitting at a chair. You don't want to have your hi-hat stand turned off sideways like this and be all uncomfortable. So just get it set where it's comfortable. Bring everything to you. Change the angle of this floor tom a little bit. Okay. Got one cymbal stand left to go. So you're going to open up the base and the tripod. This has an extra piece. Sometimes this plastic insert likes to come up, but it just slides down and snugs into there. So we can go pretty high with these cymbal stands if you want to. Some people like to play their cymbals pretty high up. Some people like them a little closer to the drums. I personally like them a little closer. Okay, and then we've got typically these are going to go over here between your floor tom and your larger rack tom. And then we're going to loosen this to adjust the angle of the boom arm, which is this, which we can extend out this way. And then we've also got an angle adjustment for this part that holds the cymbal. We bring the whole thing down a little bit. Now, cymbals are something I'd like to discuss really quick. On most beginner kits like this, the cymbals that come with them are it's just something to hit. It sort of looks and sounds like a cymbal. They're not really high quality cymbals. I mean, you can spend $300 or $400 just on one cymbal, and here you're getting an entire drum set for just under $400. So these are good for learning and training, but you're quickly going to find that you're gonna probably want to upgrade these. And you could spend a couple $100 and get a decent set of you know, semi-pro quality cymbals for a couple $100 for a whole set. That'll give you hi-hats, a ride, and a crash. So the other thing that they do with these entry-level kits is they almost always just come with a set of hi-hats and one other cymbal that they call a crash ride. And so you hit it in one manner when you're using it as a ride cymbal, and you hit it in another way when you are using it as a crash cymbal. So it's supposed to be a dual purpose cymbal. You're going to soon find that you're going to want to add a crash cymbal. At least that, if not upgrade your cymbals. So. But that's our complete set. You can put your drum key right there if you like, and that's what it looks like. The last thing I want to talk about is an O-ring. It really changed the sound of the drum, in my opinion, for the good. Here's the sound of the floor tom without the O-ring. And just a simple layer of plastic. Really purifies the sound, in my opinion. Peace.